this team, this organization has been built through the draft. They would rather draft and pay their own players than pay somebody else's players, essentially get guys in free agency or any other method of acquisition, of transaction. But this is the way the Lions have done it. It has served them well. It has worked for them.
Yeah.
But now, is there something more that needs to happen? Here's Brad Holmes yesterday at the podium.
Commitments that you have, salary cap, the guys that you've already signed, and then maybe coming out, how does that impact any sort of decision when it comes to those top players?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because there are a lot of decisions that we have to make, because we're at the juncture with our roster right now that we have identified a lot of young core pieces that we want to keep around, and unfortunately that's the tough part, is that you got to make decisions on other players contractually that you might not be able to keep, that you want to keep. So it's not more so due to you don't want to have the players anymore, but you just can't have everybody. I really kind of looked at it just at the start of this year that we had the first round pick in 21, and we already, basically rewarded already. But, 22 we had 2 ones, in 23 we had 2 ones. Well, in 23 we had 2 twos that year too that we had graded as first round picks. So that's like 7 first round picks in total, that all players that, we like them, but then you start adding on the other non-first round picks of the St. Browns, that already got rewarded. You got a Kirby Joseph that was a third. You know what I mean? So that stuff starts adding up, and you got to make some tough decisions. We've already started a lot of that work already in terms of the preparation and planning, forecasting, because whatever you do this year is going to impact financially the next year after as well. So it's a lot of work to be done.
And that video from Nolan Bianchi, Lions beat writer, Detroit News.
Hey, here's an interesting point. I want to read this. This comes from Cody Ingles. Shout out to Cody Ingles, always in the chat. Fans and media need to understand we aren't keeping every name on the roster or chasing big names. We have to get away from marrying the name and not marry. We have to get away from marrying the name and not staying married to the mission. That's essentially what he's saying. So what would you have the Lions do? You want to stay married to the mission, that is draft the players in the offseason, and that's how you're going to bring this team like how it is? I understand that. The Lions have had a lot of success in the draft, and a lot of those players have become, for lack of a better word, some of the best players in the NFL. Talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, etc. But at the same time, in the last 2 years, you have not closed at the finish line. A lot of other teams, most teams in the NFL, they find a way to bring in set free agents that can help you. You want to stay married to the mission? All right. You want to stay married to Davenport, who got injured last year, coming up already being injured? Are we staying married to Zadarius Smith potentially? Zadarius Smith is 32. Now, you guys are the one that always talks about how old players are once they cross 28. Well, Big Z is 32, and he looked a little bit like 32 towards the end of last season. Mm-hmm. Is that the mission that you want to stay married to? Look, I'm all for it. What Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have done, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride. But now we're at that crux point. Based off of last year, who knows if the Lions are even going to win this division? Right. I know it hurts to say it. It's all good. It's analyst work. We can have this conversation. You just got to keep the momentum there. I don't know what that move is, but something has to be done by the Lions in the offseason to keep that momentum where it was, where we thought they were going to win it at one point. Now it's like, yeah, we think so. It used to be the Lions are going to win. Now it's, I think the Lions will win in this window. That's all. We're just trying to infuse something to the squad, man. I think it's a real conversation, Pete.
I was going to say, can I pay you guys a compliment, and especially Ryan yesterday when you called in. I want to pay you a compliment because you basically answered the whole question right there. Because Anson is kind of agreeing with Cody Ingle. Just so you know, Bray, Anson, is still doing the building through the draft thing, which I'm not saying that Anson's way off. I think Anson is correct, but I think that what you were talking about, Bray, about taking that next step, and that's what Brad Holmes was talking about, not overspending, but taking that next step. You said it, Ryan. What starting jobs are open? There aren't. You take draft picks 1 and 2 to help develop starting jobs. The starting jobs are already filled by the young core. Now it's time to develop, take gambles on younger players. This is the time to spend those draft picks and to get that player to put you over the edge. And again, guys, if the Philadelphia Eagles are proving to you that they're going to sacrifice whatever they have to get the one player that they think they need to keep the ball rolling, I think the Lions need to do the same.
Well, thanks for that, Pete. And I do think when you look at this team and, what do they have, 6 draft picks this year, how many spots do they have available on the 2025 roster that need to be accounted for, that they maybe don't have contracts for right now, like a Carlton Davis? Carlton Davis, but they expect probably to sign Carlton Davis. Like, in their mind, when the business end of things settle down or get accomplished, how many roster spots do the Lions have, let alone starting jobs on this team? So maybe 6 to 8 I mentioned yesterday, and
spots
through free agency, and that's generous, by the way, I think. Through free agency and the draft, how many players do you actually think you need to fit to this roster? So, Ricky, I think that's part of it. And by the way, I listen to Anson a lot. When I'm not here, I've got other commitments that I'm doing, so I don't listen a lot. Yesterday, I listened a lot. Anson's crazy, man. I'm telling you, he is crazy. I love that guy. I love listening to him. He adds so much.
Had him in a match chair.
He adds so much. He is
animation,
wild
research.
I love that
opinion,
dude. I love that dude. We are lucky to have him as part of our show here weekly. I mean, that is great stuff.
It's funny when we first started doing the show together. Like the back and forth energy. I've known Anson for a very long time. Like I remember him back in the days when the Pistons were winning. We talk about it all the time. But doing the show together, that back and forth, I'm like, man, this guy gets me riled up. Pause. So I'm trying to learn how to not be riled up. But in that space over the last couple months or so, I just really enjoyed my time with him and our back and forth. But he's really good at what he does.
He's good. Yeah. You got anything, Ricky, on that?
Back to your point, and you were talking about how many roster spots. And think about it. Even the backups got to play a lot this year. So, you actually know what they can do.
Exactly.
So, it's that even knocks
not much
more spots off. Yeah, forget the picks, man.
Yeah,
go get them.
Right.
Can I do one more real quick, Ryan? Please, I'm sorry.
Please.
Do you remember what Brad Holmes said about how that even with the injuries, that even the backups were considered starters? That they were also that proves how deep the Lions really are.
Yeah, it's Braylon says this a lot, and I've heard it before, but Braylon really reiterates it and drives the point home here on our show. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Yeah.
If you're standing pat, you're getting worse. And it does feel like the Lions' offseason is adding a depth guy, adding a bunch of second stringers. Doesn't it feel like that? And I don't know that to be true.
Yeah.
But it just feels like they are going down the road where we're going to add some depth.
Okay.
We're going to add, maybe a 6th offensive lineman, somebody that can play a couple of different roles. We're going to add, a defensive lineman here, but we're not going to add somebody that can come in and, play 70% of snaps on defense for us or anything like that. I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that. That is just a feeling that this is an off season about adding depth and not adding outstanding talent.
This is the feeling that I hope that I get from the Lions off season, okay? Here we go. We're going to have a conversation. Nobody's going to yell at each other. We're just going to listen, all right? Lions don't have to get Max Crosby. Lions don't have to get Myles Garrett. Lions don't have to do that. This is what I need to see from the Lions at least, though. Will you indulge me? I need to feel like the players that they're bringing in, whether it's through the draft or free agency, aren't if players. I feel like last year, there's a lot of if players. We're going to re-sign Emmanuel Mosley because if he stays healthy, he's really good. I like what I saw out of him. That's why we bought him. We're going to sign Davenport because when and if he stays healthy, he's this player. We're going to draft Terrion Arnold because we know he came out of Alabama, and if he can be what he was at Alabama or be like other Alabama defensive players, just players, period, we got a pretty good if I need them to start picking players that they know. Whatever is in the draft, however they want to scout it, I need when they pick a player, you can look at that player and say, yep, I understand what the Lions are doing here. When they bring somebody in free agency, whatever it is, whatever position, I understand why they brought that guy here. I don't need to be like, if this works, if this player stays healthy, if this draft pick can catch on because he's from insert school here. I need a bunch of, this is going to be a guy. Ennis Rakestraw is an if. Terry and Arnold, no matter that they moved up, he's an if. Carlton Davis last year, he worked out, but he was an if. Davenport, an if.
Do you think the injuries may have them scarred a little bit? Maybe they're nervous. They're like, maybe we need to make sure that we have the depth just in case we lose. Because even if they lose half the the players, that's still 12.
Right. I think it is, and again, I don't know this. I'm basing my opinion on what Dr. Jeff Pierce has told us, I think 2 weeks ago, in regards to Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson is a top 5 defensive end in this game. I don't think there's any question about it. But if the expectation is that Aiden Hutchinson, a year after this surgery, a year after this injury, is going to be the Aiden Hutchinson, the top 5 Aiden Hutchinson guy, I think all of us
he won't be there right away.
Being naive about how bad that injury was. Now, if he's a top 20 guy, is that still good enough? If he's a top 20 player, is that still good enough? Or do you need him to be that top 5 Aiden Hutchinson guy? Because according to Dr. Jeff Pierce that we had when we talked to him a couple of weeks ago, it was the 2026 season that he expects Aiden Hutchinson to be absolutely the top 1, top 3, top 5 guy that he was before the injury. I'm just going based on that. So if that is the case, even if you get top 5 Aiden Hutchinson, which I don't think you will, it was a horrible injury. He's going to come back. He's going to play. But is he going to play at the level you expect Aiden Hutchinson to play at? Do you believe the Detroit Lions are good enough right now, if they're healthy as all get out next year, to win the Super Bowl?
Without Aiden?
With Aiden. I'm saying with everybody coming back.
Right.
Carlton Davis, Aiden Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, everybody coming back. Are they good enough to win the Super Bowl next year if they just add a couple of depth guys?
I said this what was my last show? Thursday. I said that same conversation. My answer is yes. Like, everybody comes back that was on the team and healthy in regard, and we think they bring back Carlton Davis, etc. I think they have enough to win. Will they is a different question, but that's not what you asked. You said, do I think they have enough? Yes.
Well, then all of this is a moot point then, if you think they can win the Super Bowl. Because, as somebody said in the chat, this isn't about winning the offseason. But, teams around them don't stand pat either. I think Minnesota will get worse, but I think Green Bay and Chicago will get better.
Whoever made that comment got to watch that, because last season the Eagles won the offseason and they also won the Super Bowl. So you got to be very careful when you say that. The guys that they drafted, we heard about the secondary. Cooper DeJean had a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Right. Quinyon Mitchell, do I even need to say his name? In the backfield. So you got to win the offseason.
Yeah, right. You think of teams that won the offseason. Philadelphia with Saquon Barkley. San Francisco to a certain extent during the season with a midseason trade of Christian McCaffrey. It was just 2022. It was just 4 Super Bowls ago. The L.A. Rams won the offseason by acquiring Matthew Stafford. Before that, Tampa Bay won the offseason by acquiring Tom Brady.
Antonio Brown,
right,
Gronkowski.
Right. So, I mean, the beat goes on and on here. It just kind of does feel like that, to win the offseason splash. Even to a certain extent, I mean, remember the Chicago Bears a couple of years ago when they got who's the defensive player?
Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack,
Khalil Mack.
Montez Sweat.
Montez Sweat.
That was during the season.
It was during the season, but remember how much better they got?
They beat us.
It is amazing.
Or did I make that up? They beat the Lions.
I think so. It is amazing when there's one player out there like a Saquon Barkley that could make everybody around them better. And even that's one of the reasons why I wanted the Tigers to get Alex Bregman. Of course, for Bregman's bat, But Alex Bregman improved certainly 3, but I think upwards of 4 different positions in the field and in the lineup. Just his one bat. And I think a guy like Myles Garrett could do the same thing. And we mentioned yesterday, Braylon, Terry and Arnold, people talking about Terry and Arnold, all this stuff. If Terry and Arnold is on Philadelphia, in my opinion, you could have a different one. But if he's on Philadelphia, he's only got to guard the guys for a second and a half.
100%.
He's probably a Quinyon Mitchell getting all the love like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
I agree, because they drafted who they were supposed to 2 years ago. No, 100%. With that.
Are you talking about Jalen Carter?
I mean, you know, look, I get tired of bringing it up, but I did yet again. It makes it that much easier. I'm just thinking about the Eagles and how loaded they are.
Yeah. No.
The Lions are a damn good team. It's just one of those things where can they win next year with the team as it's currently constructed, if healthy? Sure, because we believe they could have did it last year. But each year there's more.
Right.
Each year there's watch this. Each year there's more film. Now you got a whole nother 2 offensive. You got a new offensive coordinator. You have a new defensive coordinator. Things aren't going to be the same. You don't have that same edge. Are you going to have the same trick plays? Are you playing the same schedule? Things change. You always got to stay ahead of the curve. You always got to get better. I don't need the Lions to go out and make that move. That's not what you need. But I also know that if they make a move like that, it changes. It makes it easy. It gives you a little bit of leeway. It gives you a little, you know what? Don't have to necessarily play our best game because we have this, that, and the third. So everybody wants reassurance. Everybody wants a little more backing, as you say, adding more depth. The hell with the depth. Add the players that you know change the game up.
Damn.
Remember when Big Z first got here? Remember the influx of energy?
Right.
Even when he's on the sideline coaching against the Houston Texans game, he's getting guys. Yeah. He's so excited to be here. It's new energy. Sometimes you need new energy. Sometimes you got to have new energy. And what better new energy than the player that's best in what he does? The player that's still young, the best at what he does. He brings new energy. He brings new teaching. He just also brings, I want to effing win, much like you guys do.
How much of this offseason, too, if you just think about the offseason as a whole, how much of this offseason, based on what one player's demand was, that he wants out, if he did that quietly and none of us know that Myles Garrett behind the scenes is trying to work on a trade or insisted to the Cleveland Browns front office that he wants out of Cleveland and he wants a trade, we're not talking in these terms.
That's true.
We are not. There's probably who would be the player out there that you would talk about the most in terms of a free agent for the Detroit Lions or a trade prospect, somebody that was available, not a pipe dream like a Max Crosby. I'm talking about
Chase.
like a Josh Sweat or a Chase Young.
Chase Young,
you know,
Khalil Mack from the Chargers.
Exactly.
Unrestricted. But we're here.
Right.
And the reason why we're here is because the Detroit Lions, one position has hampered and bothered us for the last 3-4 years in this new regime. I'm not talking about the past, I'm talking about this one. It's the defensive line. It's the defensive line. It has been the conversation. Yes, DJ Reader, he played well in the run stopping when he was healthy. Aleem McNeil was turning into a monster. Aiden had a compound fracture that I don't know if you guys understand, like Ryan said, how difficult it will be. You saw that video and got excited when he's running straight ahead. Right. And I commend him for that. He's definitely ahead of schedule. But there are so many more things that come back into getting back into the game. It's the PTSD part of it. It's the mental aspect of it. It's trusting yourself. It's then getting in a rhythm. You got to do all that just to be able to get back to comfortability. Now you got to get back to that 97. That takes time. And we still don't have the other side shored up. So this is always going to be the conversation. Conversation is now a little bit more exciting because it's a guy that's not too far from here that really wants to